And welcome to a very special version of Bonus Time with Drennan here on the Big Play Sports Network. We are coming to you live from the Kaulig Companies Championship at Firestone Country Club in Akron, where the top seniors in the world are here this weekend to compete for a prestigious championship which has taken over after Bridgestone left. The touring pros just continued their tournament here, but now the seniors are here in Akron, and there is a gigantic throng. Of course, Matt Kaulig, we were here last night. We recorded an interview with Matt, which you'll be seeing here on the Big Play Sports Network, and it was great to have him here. We appreciate his invitation to all of us at the Big Play Network to be the host media outlet for this prestigious event, and I mean prestigious. This is the festival area where there is a gigantic Rock and Roll Hall of Fame stage that is second to none. It is just enormous over there, and indeed they had live entertainment last night. Despite the constant rain, there was a lot of people here that weathered the storm literally, and it was a great event featuring John Daly, of all people, which we'll get to in a minute. But we had a great time. There's all kinds of food stands and drink stands and just all kinds of festivities. They'll have different concerts here every single night. We at the Big Play Sports Network are featuring various shows. Already had one show recorded this morning with Gabby, Chris, and Nick. Other shows will be coming your way from the Big Play Sports Network today, tomorrow, as the tournament continues. They teed it off this morning, and they are underway. Let me bring in my by the way, on this special version of Bonus Time with Drennan, we're going to be featuring fellow Big Play Sports Network host, former head coach of the Cleveland Browns, Greg Williams, will be joining us. Also, we'll have Dave McAllister, the founder of the Big Play Sports Network, and Ken Miles, a partner and investor here at Big Play. A fascinating background, business background, and of course, he had the Preakness winner in horse racing, part of the Triple Crown. So we'll talk to Ken all about that. So we've got an all-star cast for you today in this special version, and we may go a little longer today. We'll see. We certainly are very flexible in that regard. We're delighted to have you with us, but we don't want to go too long because at 2:30 we have a tee time on the North Course. The big boys are playing the South Course, but we're going to play the North Course at 2:30, and I'm certainly, Ryan, going to end the show prior to that, so I can warm up a little bit and challenge that North Course, which is my favorite of the three, even though the big boys compete on the monster, as they call it, the South Course here at prestigious Firestone Country Club. Ryan, it's great to have you with me again as usual, pal. What a event this is.
It is a pleasure to be here, and you know, I will not be golfing myself today, but I'm glad the weather came around. Yesterday was a little cloudy, a little rainy, but it is beautiful today. Little cloudy, but it doesn't look like it's going to rain. Good weather for the guys playing today, and good weather for you as you'll be golfing here in just a couple hours.
Yeah, looking forward to it as we are this entire weekend. It's great. We are supposed to have good weather. You know, some of the seniors that are competing here, I got here pretty early this morning just to see some of them tee off, and incredible how they still can just annihilate the golf ball and as accurate as indeed they are. Let me go through some of them for you. Angel Cabrera is here this weekend in Akron. Cabrera, of course, has done very well in major championships and has won one. Markel Cavecchia is here this weekend, another great player. KJ Choi is here, an international star. Darren Clark, former winner of the British Open, is competing here this weekend. David Duval, also a great player from the past, who, of course, won only one major. He was at one time ranked the #1 golfer in the world, and only won one major in his career, and that was the British Open, which, of course, is going to be staged next week. By the way, we will be featuring Mike Yeager, the head golf professional at Columbia Hills Country Club, where I belong, next week to preview the British Open. Ernie Els is is here, multiple major champion, and certainly a big gallery will be following him around. Jim Furyk, another one who is here this weekend with that very unorthodox swing that only he can execute perfectly. A great golfer, great golfer. Retief Goosen, a former U.S. Open champion, is here this weekend competing at Firestone. Miguel Angel Jimenez, you know him from the ponytail. He is a great player, and he is here in Akron. Justin Leonard is competing this weekend here at Firestone. Billy Mayfair, remember he played very well in the British Open a few years ago. Rocco Mediate is here. Colin Montgomery, never won a major, certainly came close a couple of times, particularly in the British Open where he's from. Jose Maria Olazabal, Masters champion, is here in Akron this weekend. Vijay Singh is here competing. Steve Stricker, I believe Stricker, is Stricker not the defending champion, guys? Ryan, Luke, do you know that? Is Steve Stricker the defending champion here of this event? I think he is, isn't he?
That's a great question, Bruce. Nothing Google can't solve, right?
Yeah, I think he is the defending champ. Y.E. Yang as
Steve
well.
Steve Stricker returning to Old Putter to defend Kaulig Company's
championship. There it is, Kaulig Company's championship. And last but not least, my good pal John Daly, who was here last night conducting court, if you will, and I had a reunion, you may know if you follow our show. I've established, I'm very proud to say, a friendship and very close acquaintance with John, and we reunited last night. Ryan, you were there.
I sure was. I got the picture on the screen. Everybody can see it. Two legends, John Daly,
really?
Bruce Drennan.
Oh, I don't have a monitor in front of me. I can't see that. But yeah, we had a great time. And John was. We were going to do an interview with John, but he was preoccupied. Let's say. I'll leave it to you to guess what that was all about. But John is just so personable and so great. And indeed, we'll be talking a lot about John here. He teed off earlier this morning. 10-something was his tee time, and he teed off on 1. He birdied number 1. He parred number 2. He bogeyed number 3, and I think last we saw that he was at even par. So there you have some of the prestigious golfers, the seniors from all around the world that are competing here this week at Firestone South. Great tournament, great field indeed, and just thrilled to be here. Before we bring in Coach Williams, I wanted to bring you up to speed. Obviously, the Guardians lost a tough game last night, Ryan. Another one-run affair. All these games have been one-run affairs. That first one was a pitcher's duel. Then you had the slugfest. And then last night we had another nip-and-tuck affair, mid-runs, 5-4 final. So the Guardians trying to leave Detroit with a split of the 4-game series they'll be playing this afternoon, so hopefully they can get that done, but tough loss last night.
Yeah, very tough loss. You know, you never want to see the Guards drop these games that you know they're very capable of winning, especially when the Twins, they're right behind us. But good thing is they dropped one to the White Sox. That's how baseball works. Still got a 5-game lead in the Central, and we found out this morning Gabriel Arias DFA'd, or excuse me, not DFA'd, option down to AAA Columbus. Good news is, though, we get Will Brennan back in the lineup. He comes off the 10-day IL. He's going to be a big boost advantage in that lineup in the right field position. So that's good. Just win today, win the series. All is good, Bruce.
Yeah, Arias was hitting .222, so they're going to send him down, see if he can get his act together a little more. You know, it's amazing, though, so many proven players with low batting averages this year. I'll give you one. Brian Hayes of the Pittsburgh Pirates is hitting .220. Something like that this year. I mean, you know, he's a much better ball player than that. So there's a lot of underachievers. Swanson, Dansby Swanson, used to be with Atlanta. Now he's with the Cubs as the shortstop. They thought he would hit a ton of home runs in Wrigley Field, and he's been a big-time underachiever, no question. Arias doesn't have the experience of those guys, so maybe it'll benefit him when he is sent down and we bring him back up. Let's hope so anyway. But good to have Will Brennan back, and of course, like I say, the Guardians will be going for a split of the 4-game series this afternoon. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, Greg Williams, the former head coach of the Cleveland Browns, will be joining us from Firestone Country Club in Akron. It's the Kaulig Company's championship at Firestone. Great to have you back with us here from Firestone Country Club in Akron. It's the Kaulig Companies Championship with the greatest seniors on the planet, featured here at Firestone South this weekend. We at the Big Play Sports Network, very proud to be the media outlet for this prestigious event. And this man is no stranger to you as not only the former head football coach of the Cleveland Browns, but now we are proud to say a co-host of his own show here on the Big Play Sports Network, Greg Williams. Greg, good to see you, pal.
Great to see you, too. And who would have ever thought that I'd be having a show, out there, and I'd actually be sitting in the chair like you are now and doing a show every week, and everything is great. And this is a great company. And the fact that my son is the host of the show, I've got to temper myself down a little bit just to make sure that I don't snap on him.
Blake, of course, has decided after Greg left Cleveland and went to the New York Jets, Blake stayed here in the Cleveland area and went a different direction rather than coaching.
He did. He went into wealth management and works with Lakefront Capital. He's doing a great job with all that kind of stuff. And I smile now, though, that finally he is using that education that I had to pay for at Princeton University. And he turned down all of his football scholarships because he had them all over the country to go play full scholarships, and all of a sudden he wants to go to Princeton, and they don't do athletic scholarships, and we made too much money to qualify for a loan. I was the head coach of the Bills at that time, and so now he's using that education. I like that.
Absolutely, Greg. And, of course, you are still active in the other league now.
Yep, I am. I told Dwayne Johnson I'd help him do this UFL, XFL, and now we've merged into the UFL. And, Bruce, it's much necessary. One of the things, when I was the head coach of the Bills, I signed, 6, 7, 8 guys out of NFL Europe. A couple of the guys had very, very long careers, all pros and everything later on in life. The punter, Brian Moorman, is one of the really best finds that we got out of that thing. And those guys need another opportunity. They mature and they grow in these minor leagues. And the NFL is the only professional sports league in the world that doesn't have an official minor league.
Right, NHL, Major League Baseball, NBA, right.
Every single one of those have that. For
even the PGA Tour has
even
the web.
They have the web, even the PGA Tour. And we're the only sports league in the world that doesn't have one right now, and the NFL is watching it closely. They really like the fact that we're doing that. There's been several of those guys that have been signed last year and this year out of that league, and then we played this year. Out of the 420 players that were in that league, over 350 of them have been in training camps or have played multiple games and years in the NFL, and they're just looking for another shot to get back in. So it's necessary.
You know, I want to get this out of the way. The audience that has followed my career throughout the years know this. When Greg was named the interim coach of the Cleveland Browns, I screamed on radio and television that he should be given the job full time. And the Browns made a monumental mistake. As you know, I pride myself. I love you, Cleveland. That's my slogan. I'm a homer, but I've also prided myself in my career to tell it like it is. It's gotten me in trouble sometimes too, Greg, believe me. But I screamed what a monumental mistake that was, and I just wanted to get that out of the way. With that being said, let's talk about this current Cleveland Browns team. I use the expression that the clock is ticking. And what I mean by that, Watson got a 5-year contract. He's in the 3rd year of that contract. He must exceed what Flacco accomplished last year, because getting into the playoffs is one thing. It's a rarity when a team gets into the playoffs who hasn't been in the playoffs and gets to the Super Bowl that year. Okay, they got there last year. Now they've got to take the next step. That takes you to the 4th year if they don't get to the Super Bowl this year. And if they don't get to the Super Bowl within the 5-year contract, in my opinion, considering what they had to give up to get Watson, I think it'll set the franchise back at least 5 years. Your take?
Bruce, you hit a home run. I totally agree with every single thing you said. And one of the things, and again, I haven't been on the air saying this before, but I am right now. I'm just the same way with you. Don't ask me a question and it's going to hurt your feelings, because I always say the honest answer is that the owners in the National Football League were not very happy with a guaranteed contract. I'm telling you, and I know every single one of the owners personally after 36 years in the league. And now that there's a guaranteed contract, you don't have the manipulation of the salary cap in ways that you can continue to grow or do things around that contract. And now the fact of, how many games, 16, 17 games in 3 years? I mean, what are you telling me that? That position is worth that much money? I was so happy and proud that Flacco signed here. I'm still very close with a lot of people in that organization, and they called and asked me my opinion, about bringing Flacco in for a workout and doing that. And I told them, I'm driving him in if you'll do that. This is very, very important for the rest of those players around Watson, around Flacco, to give them a chance to continue to grow. I think it's going to be a really good season. Jim Schwartz was one of my assistants at the Titans many years ago.
What a job. Oh, God, what a job.
You know what? I'm so
defense.
proud of him. I'm so proud of what he was able to do in his whole career, but what he's doing at Cleveland right now. Now, with all that said and done, as dominant as a defense, and they improved it this year also defensively, as it's been, now it's time. You have to manage the clock. You have to manage the field position. You have to manage, the offense in every way. And I do believe that Dorsey will help that also, because I've followed him as a player and then as a coach for a long time, coached against him for a long time. I think the Browns are set up to take the next step. I really do believe that. But if they don't, just what you said, it's going to be a setback.
Do you think Stefanski will relinquish the play calling?
I don't know that for sure, but I do know this as being a two-time head coach, is that when you're doing the play calling, and I smile, I track every single play caller in the National Football League every single week, and I can tell you how many timeouts are wasted because you can't do your job being the head coach and calling.
That makes a lot of sense.
And I can tell you which offensive coordinator that I'm going against, because I stand on the sideline, and once I know the personnel that's in there making my call, all I do is watch the play caller, and if I get a chance to see him in the booth, if I get a chance to see him across the field, and I watch the timing of the play that's coming out of their mouth. That's hard. And Kevin's done a really good job of managing that already, but I will tell you this, you can be a better head coach when you're managing field position, down and distances, going forward on 4th down, all the things that you need to do as a head coach. helps the coordinator make the play call. You can still be involved, but don't be the primary play caller.
Yeah,
That's
there's
my
exceptions
philosophy.
to the rule. Reed, of course. There's been a few others, but it makes total sense. Now, here's the other thing I want to throw at you. The AFC, another challenge for our team is we're in the AFC.
Yep.
The defending Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs, aren't going anywhere. This division, I believe now, is the toughest division in the NFL. Burrow will be back healthy.
Yep.
They drafted accordingly to protect him even more.
Yep.
Baltimore's going to be playing with a chip on their shoulders after being humiliated at home by Kansas City. And Pittsburgh's been making the playoffs with no quarterbacks. Now they've got two. So,
yeah, I think that by far, in my personal opinion, the toughest division in the National Football League is the AFC North. Okay, and I think there will be every single team play with a chip on their shoulder this year. The one that I'm taking a look at close after Cleveland is that you better not be counting out Mike Tomlin. I'm telling you, I think the world of him as a coach and how he manages all three phases, and what we just talked about not being the play caller, was a really good defensive play caller too. But Danny Smith is a great special teams coordinator, how they handle the defense, and now offensively. Okay, Arthur Smith was my young assistant a long time ago at the Redskins, now the Commanders. And what they've done, they've improved their whole system a ton. So don't count Pittsburgh out.
let's talk about Watson. A lot of people, and I don't agree with this, a lot of people think, well, he's got all this guaranteed money now, and what motivation is he going? I think he will be motivated. I think he's enough of a competitor that he's going to want to prove he's worth that money. Let's just pray and hope that's the case. Do you agree with that?
Yes, and I think that any time you are the best in the world at what you do, you have to have a chip on your shoulder. You have to be able to take that competition, okay, to be the best you can be every day, not just every game, every day. And that the things that you're doing behind the scenes when nobody else is watching you, okay, that's what makes you great. I do think that he has some things to prove. I do believe that he's going to give everything he has to do it the right way. And just on some conversations I've had with some, still players there that I stay in touch with, he's done very, very, very well in their eyes, and everything is going up leading up to this training camp.
Yeah, and certainly he has the God-given talent.
Yep.
I mean, nobody can dispute that. So, but getting back to the guaranteed contract, it's something I want to talk to you about Liv in golf, because when I interviewed John Daly a couple of weeks ago at an event in Youngstown, I had him on stage and I said, what do you think of Liv? And he says, relief pitchers in baseball can have an ERA of 5 or 6 and they're guaranteed $5, $10, $15 million. He says, I got to go out and earn it every time. I can't have anything guaranteed. So how can you blame these guys that went to the Live? So I don't blame Watson, but Haslam had to peeve off a lot of owners, because now with the premier quarterbacks, their agents are going to go and say, hey, we're better than Watson. Oh,
I'm telling you, and several of the owners, when it went down, because I knew that I had relationships here in the building and relationships with Mr. Haslam and all that kind of stuff, but several owners reached out to me, and I can't repeat the texts that they send me because they weren't very nice.
Yeah. And again, getting back to the AFC, you certainly have Buffalo in the East. Mm-hmm. Miami has come into their own. Rodgers presumably will be healthy this year. Obviously, the Chargers have a new coach, and I
believe a lot in him. Uh-huh. I love that whole family, and Jim and I are very close, and I think he has a great staff, and people better not, be discounting or counting out the Chargers, in that division, because they're going to have a total, culture change with what he's coming in and doing. That's going to be a big team to watch, because Herbert, Hebert, whatever they have you want to, Justin can flat play.
Absolutely.
And he wants to prove himself every day. He wants to prove himself, and he's done a very good job.
The one that puzzled me last year, Greg, was Vrabel getting canned.
Agreed.
I don't get that.
I've been very close to him his whole life as a player and as a coach, and helped him a lot when he first I tell him all the time, when the players move over into coaching, you got to dumb down, because you as a player know everything. We as coaches don't know anything, and we laugh at everything. But he's a brilliant, smart guy. There may be some things behind the scenes within the organization. I don't know. I was with that organization for 12 years at the Oilers and the Titans, so there's still an awful lot of people in that organization I'm very close to. But that did surprise me.
Yeah, he made the playoffs every year. And sometimes it was hard, but he did accomplish that every year.
And Jim...
And he never had a star quarterback.
No, he never had a big time one. No, and that showed you how, overall how he was managing everything from the kicking game into the defense into the offense and managing field position. He did a great job with all that. He and I had a lot of conversations about that. And then, when Jim Schwartz left Philly, he was out there for a couple of years, but he helped, and he was a senior assistant on that staff for Vrabel. He was working with Vrabel at that time, so that connection that they have and the belief systems they have together, I do think Mike was a significant hire here, because I know Jim is a person you just want to be able to talk to somebody in honesty, and Vrabel will not BS anybody. He'll give you his honest opinion.
Let me ask you this. I don't even have a guess on this. There are many people in the Cleveland market that believe Mitchell had a lot to do with the firing of Bickerstaff. Obviously, the rosters are tiny in the NBA compared to the NFL. Can that exist in the NFL? I can think of only one position. That would be the QB position. Does that even come into play over these past years? I don't know.
I would hope, and I would like to say it doesn't exist. But we do understand there are things behind the scenes that, especially when owners get involved and, want somebody to like them or not, as opposed to we have to have production on the field, okay? And it's the performance of people on the field that give you a chance to earn and grow and take every blade of grass, okay, and put points on the board that way. I would like to say that it doesn't happen, but I think that you and I both know that it does.
Yeah.
And there's things from a political aspect. I flunked politics a long time ago. I don't know if you know that. Is that, I grew up, in that way, and my dad's 90. He'll be 91 this fall. My mom's 87. And
God bless.
I do, and my dad hasn't changed a lick. And every time that he has an opportunity to bust me or slap me or do it, he does. And all the players and everybody else love to see that discipline came from home that I have.
Let me shift gears a little bit with you. What do you think of the NIL?
I tell you this, one of the things a lot of people don't know about my son, is that I'm the head coach of the Bills, and he's doing his senior thesis for Clarence High School before he goes on to Princeton. And his thesis at that time was on the NIL. And he was ahead of everybody in the United States on that system. And he's a brilliant young man. He wanted my opinion. I kicked him out of my office. I said, this is not going to work. This is stupid. And so he loves coming back at me now when you see that. It's somewhat of a nightmare going on right now from a coaching point of view, from university points of view and everything, on how the competition and how the funding and all that kind of stuff is going to go. I think it's going to continue to drastically change here in the next 2 to 3 years, and maybe it settled down after about 3 years.
What do you mean by drastically changing?
What I think there's going to be more rules and regulations put into it. That's just my personal opinion. You can't have free spirit, free money just going to anywhere you want it to go. And at some point in time, there's going to be a lockdown. There's probably going to be some court battles. There's probably going to be some things where people are coming out and saying, hey, you're just out paying and doing everything else from a payment standpoint. The betting, all that kind of stuff, and sports betting and stuff that's going on, everything is going to enter into finally the equation of how you get a standardized way of doing it. I shake my head right now, all these guys that are coaching, because 90% of the times at these top schools like Ohio State and everything, probably 90% of the time for the assistants is on UIL.
Yeah.
Overcoaching the game.
Saban said one of the reasons that he stepped down was he used to go in the college ranks, go into a family's home and meet the family, recruiting the kid, convince the kid and the family that his school was the best school to go to. And, of course, all the coaches, and now he says, Saban said, well, now you go into that family's home and they say, how much money am I going to get?
Immediately. Unbelievable. And, when Nick stepped out, we chatted, here this past year. And he and I have been very close friends from, I don't know if you know this story, but in 1989 when Jerry Glanville was leaving the Houston Oilers and Jack Pardee was bringing his staff in, I was going in the door when Nick and Jerry Glanville were going out the door at the Houston Oilers.
Okay.
And then Jerry was trying to piss off Jack Pardee by saying he grabbed me. He said, I'm taking him with me and to go into the Atlanta Falcons, and Jack got hot and all that kind of stuff. But Nick and I have stayed very, very, very close. He's one of the best coaching friends I have, and it just spun his head and all that kind of stuff. And, we'll see that now that he's become, a broadcaster and an analyst now and everything.
That'll be interesting.
We'll see how honest he is about some of these things behind the scenes that he sees above us. So that'd be good. And I'll be messing with him, when he's on TV.
I'm sure
this
you
year.
will,
I
Greg.
will be.
The other subject is the portal. I always thought it was extreme. I have mixed emotions about this. I always thought it was unfair that you coaches would go into a family's home, recruit a kid, convince the kid to go to that school, and all you coaches have clauses in your contracts, escape clauses. So 2 months later, the coach gets offered a better job, bigger school, bigger pay, and he leaves, and the kid's stuck. I thought that was very unfair. But now on the other side of the coin, last year there was a kid, I forget who it was with his fourth school, and he wasn't even a senior, Greg.
No, I know. And that right there is, I always thought the same thing. I thought if coaches could do it, players should be able to do that. And now, as I take a look at it, all of a sudden poor little old me has a bad day and a coach actually starts coaching him a little bit harder, and all of a sudden he wants to go someplace else. I don't know how they're doing that. I don't know how with NIL and the transfer portal, it's amazing on how these teams are staying successful in some of the places, and the fans need to understand that.
What do you think of all this realignment? Oregon traveling to Oregon, Washington traveling to Rutgers?
Yeah, how about that? And all that type of stuff when you're talking about the finances of the position, and now the budgets are going to start getting cut because monies are starting to go into NIL as opposed to the budgets rising. But now the traveling expenses, all that is basically one of the things I'm saying, that there's going to be more rules and regulations to fix all this stuff because it won't survive.
And, obviously football's the big moneymaker. We all know that. Basketball too, but not to the degree of football. But how do the gymnasts benefit? How do the swimmers benefit? How do the volleyballers benefit? How do the baseball players benefit? Right. And now, again, geographics, traveling, all these other sports, traveling these distances.
And the big thing is, with all the other sports that don't make as much money, there's going to be more regulation on the amount that actually they earned or they will get, and that will be another big argument because all of a sudden, a phenomenal young baseball player is not making the same as the quarterback on the team and all this kind of stuff. And there'll be some legal battles that will start going on. Watch when some of the personal family legal battles and the families start taking universities, start taking financial donors, to court on certain things. I think it's just going to be, the next 2 or 3 years is going to be crazy.
Is the ACC going to be non-existent if Florida State and Clemson join the SEC?
I think it's going to be pretty tough, and one of my sons, was an All-American at Virginia Tech, and he and I talk about this now. Now he's an executive headhunter for Google, so he's doing fine now with what his college degree, but I didn't have to pay for that, the way I had to pay for the one at Princeton. But you know what? Yes, and I think that one of the things he and I talk about is that it may just disappear. And I hate that, because
Big 12 too. You think the Big 12 could be in jeopardy?
Again, that's where I grew up, over there in
Missouri.
in Missouri in the Big 12, and it could be the same thing too. And
Yeah.
all the history that has been in those leagues forever, now just becomes vanished. Vanished.
What do you think Notre Dame? What do you think their future is?
Notre Dame has been amazing on how they've been able to function throughout their whole, life of the university and the program.
They had to make concessions with the ACC for the other sports.
They did. They had to make concessions with that, and so it'll be interesting to see now, in the competition part of how they're having to, handle the NIL and all that kind of stuff too, will be how they'll be able to fit into certain conferences.
Yeah.
And I don't think the big conferences are set and ready to go yet. I think there's going to be more movement in the next 2 or 3 years. That's what I believe.
My. What do you think of this 12-team playoff? They're already talking about 16.
I know. They're already doing that. It took years and years and years for the NFL to grow the playoff system and all that kind of stuff. But the reason I think that they're doing that, and this is just another personal opinion, and no one's told me this, is that do you understand the revenue when you're having more playoff games, more people watching playoff games, more donors, more sponsorships and all that kind of stuff, but they're driving the price up to help kind of fund all the NIL confusions and everything else that way.
My big problem with this, though, is it's going to take away what college football. What's his name? Bill Hancock. I've interviewed him several times, and he always emphasized that every time I interviewed him that the most important thing, we have the most important regular season. Now, if Michigan and Ohio State go undefeated or they both have one loss when they meet next year, certainly the rivalry will have motivation for both coaches and schools, etc., student bodies. But they're both going to get in the playoffs.
They're going to get in the playoffs. And you're going to see some of the same conversations you have in the National Football League at the end of the season, the month of December, when there's already a fully qualified team who plays in that head-to-head battle.
Yeah.
And resting players and making sure injury conscious and all that kind of stuff is you're going to see that transfer down to that level.
Yeah. We're teeing off at. I got some other guests. I could go all day with this guy, but we're teeing off at 2:30 on the North Course. How's your game?
You know what? I haven't had a chance to play as much as I normally do, but I enjoy playing. I do that, and one of the things is that if we get to talking too much smack and everything, I'm probably better at full contact golf than I am just playing golf.
I'll keep that in mind because we're in the same foursome today. Yeah. Greg Williams, love you, buddy.
Love you too, and you do a great job, and it's all about the fans. My father-in-law, Mike Shannon, just passed away.
Oh, yeah.
Last May.
Mike.
And he used to always remind me
about that last
and
night
he pokes me and all the time and say, remember, it's about the fans. Sometimes you just need to shut up.
Greg Williams, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only. When we come back, more of the same from Firestone Country Club, the Kaulig Champions Championship going on this weekend. Back from Firestone Country Club here, a special version of Bonus Time with Drennan here on the Big Play Sports Network. The Kaulig Companies Championship, the greatest seniors on the planet, are here this weekend competing as we speak at over on Firestone South. This gentleman is the man responsible for this network being in existence, Dave McAllister. Ryan over there is cheering because he knows where the bread is coming from, of course. So the founder, Dave, Dave joins us now. How are you, partner? Great to see you.
Look at that.
And I can't thank you enough for inviting me to be part of this team.
How fun is this? Firestone, Akron, Ohio, looking beautiful. The Infinity Zone here with Matt Kaulig and all of his companies. Great night last night. Little bit of a party. Moving a little slow today, but ready to hit the North Course with you.
Yeah, looking forward to it very much so, Dave. And, of course, last night we were hampered by rain, but it didn't dampen the spirits of everyone here. The festivities, giant concert going on, and we're so honored that Matt invited us here at the Big Play Sports Network to be the media outlet for this tremendous event. And it was a special reunion for me because, as you know, over the last couple of years, I've had the privilege to establish not only a friendship, but a very close acquaintance with my buddy John Daly.
So you know what? Before you even mentioned that, and they were like, okay, you know what? We might bring John Daly over for a few questions. And I go, we need Bruce Drennan to be the guy to interview John Daly. So when did you meet John? Well, before we even get into that, last night, how about John on stage singing his heart out?
Oh, yeah.
And what, today? 2 under through 2.
Yeah. We were planning on interviewing him, but you have to understand John, and he has no timetable, no schedule. He's very impromptu, if you will.
You don't say.
And so we went over. An entourage, Dave accompanied us with Ryan and Nick, and we went over there, and we were united with. And it was funny because I saw a former colleague of mine. Her name is Bridget, and we used to work together at ESPN.
Oh, yeah, everyone knows Bridget.
And so I hadn't seen Bridget in a while. We hugged, and then there was a guy next to her, and he had a couple of fingers out like this, and they weren't these fingers, but
here, I'll reenact. He sees you from across the way.
If the boss can do it, we're okay. And so I looked, I saw the fingers, and then I looked, and it was John Daly.
Yes.
And I had just interviewed him 2 weeks ago at that United Way event out in Youngstown. So
now, how did you guys meet?
It was at the United Way fundraiser a couple of years ago, and we hooked in. And I'll tell you what, it was funny. When I got there, his bus, he travels in a bus like John Madden used to. It's a gaudy, gigantic, luxurious bus. He travels all over the country with it. And he brings his own entertainer, Jocko, with him, who's a great singer and performer. And and John likes to sing himself and play the guitar.
He's very good.
And so, anyway, we met, and I went into his bus, and he's drinking vodka. Now, this is before the fundraiser on Sunday night.
Oh, yeah.
And so he got a head start. And what really impressed me when they told us it was time to go to the table and start the festivities, and I was up on stage emceeing, and I noticed every single person that went up to John Daly and asked for an autograph or a picture. As he's doing so, he said, "What's your name? Where are you from? Got any kids? What do you do for a living?" He was
kidding.
That's the way he is, Dave. He's just so down to earth and so personable. And so we hit it off, and so the last couple of years we've become close, and it's been a lot of fun because he is just one of a kind.
I still don't, to this day, understand how he can have as much that he has the night before and still have the smoothest swing. Him and Freddie Couples, I would say, have probably the best swing in golf on this tour.
I've never seen anybody consume more alcohol and be functional than John Daly, and he's hilarious. I'll tell you a story from not this year, but last year. Before we teed off on Monday, the golf is on Monday.
Yep.
And the lake club overlooks Lake Evans. Beautiful view. And so he says, he tees one up, and he's got a mic on him, and he says, "How far's that effing boat out there?" And so he cranks one into the galaxy, and it was well short. And he says, "That boat's 600 yards because I just hit that effing ball 400.
Well, I'm glad it was 600 yards away.
Then what he was doing during the event, the ninth hole's a par 3 with a slanted green. You shoot at it, and you're shooting at a slanted green, and it undulates toward the water. Well, every single group that came through was a scramble. He got behind the green about 75 yards. So he's shooting down at it, and it's a down. And for every group that came through, he strictly used his left hand.
Really?
And chipped. And for my team, he got it this far.
I've seen him do that, yeah.
And the worst I heard the whole day, he was like 15 feet. The whole day, David. The whole day. I mean, he's really incredible, personable man, and so much fun to be with. And so this year when he got there a little late for the fundraiser on Sunday because he was in contention at a tournament in Endicott, New York.
Oh, okay.
And so I said, John, hey, congratulations, you really did well. And he said, I effing blew it on the first hole. I had an 8, and I played like you know what after that. So, but he doesn't.
So that's my favorite part about John Daly. He can be 2 under as he was earlier today, and then he can have a 10. He gets us. He's one of us.
You know. A lot of people don't realize his 2 major championships. The first was 1991, the PGA Championship in Indiana. He was an alternate. He wouldn't have even played in that PGA Championship if other pros had not withdrawn, including Nick Price, whose wife was expecting a baby.
Wow.
And so Daly got in that way and won the tournament by 3 strokes over Bruce Litsky. That was the 1991 PGA. Then in 1995, he won the British Open at St. Andrews, which is his favorite course. And he won in a playoff with Constantino Rocca. And they use 4 holes in the British, and he's heading there next week, by the way. You get a lifetime exemption when you win.
Wow.
And get this, in that British Open, 1995, that was the last British Open that Arnold Palmer played in, and it was the first British Open that Tiger Woods played in.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Look at that fun fact.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Well, here's something you may not know. How did this network come about?
It's a great question.
Tell us, boss.
Yeah, so started in my basement, and it was a guy named Chris McNeil, Reflog, on Twitter. We met on the internet, and I said, you know what, let's try to do something, which no one was really doing at the time, a thing called a video live stream podcast. And the premise was we were going to let drunk Browns fans call in. Me and Chris were going to kind of host this video show on the internet. And we said, all right, let's just do it, see what happens. And it was hilarious. Drunk Browns fans calling in post-game after a win, probably more so after a loss. And Browns fans are the best, as you know.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was the show.
I used to do a post-game show.
Yeah, so this is how it starts. And so me and Chris were like, this is so much fun. The season ends. We're like, we have to continue this going. And so we figured it out. We did a lot of Googling. We figured out what is really a video podcast, because there really weren't many at the time. And me and Chris put one together. We got Nick. We got Gab. The show was a hit on social media, one of the top shows. It was really only the first video show probably in Cleveland and in Ohio. No one was really doing it at the time. And we just hit copy and paste, and now we've built it into 12 shows, including the legendary Bruce Drennan hosting his own show with Big Play.
I'm humbled. I really appreciate the invite, and I'm enjoying it thoroughly because it's once or twice a week, and it doesn't cramp my style on the golf course. You know, I'm playing 4 or 5 days a week. I look forward to the days I'm not playing. I'm playing so much golf.
And we've introduced you to the internet.
Yes.
Ryan
yes,
loved
talk
that
about Mr. Ignorant right here, the most ignorant of ignorance right here. Yes, indeed, and I appreciate that. But the other shows are great, too, including Greg Williams, who we just had on with his son Blake, and some of the others, too.
Yeah, if you're a Browns fan, obviously the Bruce Drennan Show, Greg Williams with Blake Williams breaking down just a unique look at football. Hanford Dixon, Chris McNeil, Matt Fontana, Chico Borman. There's so much content if you're a diehard Browns fan.
Yeah. And we cover all sports. It's not just the Browns, obviously.
Including golf.
Yeah, Ryan and I talk a lot of golf, and obviously the Guardians are just having a dream season. It's really incredible what they're accomplishing this year, let alone the Cavs and all the conversation about them and how they can get to the promised land, meaning the NBA championship again. So it's all really good stuff. What's in the future?
You know what? I think we have a ton of really great content. We're building an app that's going to be launched soon, so that'll be on iOS, that'll be on Roku. Probably add more shows to more TV, more distribution, get it out to the masses, and keep it going.
Can't thank you enough. Appreciate
Bruce?
everything, Dave. Really enjoying it thoroughly.
Now, before we golf, what's your handicap?
I'm an 11.
An 11?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
I'm a 12. This is going to be interesting.
Oh, gosh. Oh, my.
What's your gimme level?
You know, I'm 74 years old. I get to hit from the seniors, though, you know.
I've heard.
I get to hit from the seniors. I mean, you know, come on. Fair is fair, right? I mean, I'm 74 years old, for goodness sakes. Look at this guy's upper body here.
We will keep you guys posted who wins, me or Bruce Drennan.
And believe me, Williams is going to hit back where you do, too.
I'm not going
to let him get up there with me and the seniors. Dave, thanks again, buddy.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate it.
We'll
when we come back, it'll be Ken Miles, who's one of the partners here at the Big Play Sports Network, as we're coming your way from Firestone Country Club. The Kaulig Company's championship with the best seniors in the world will continue in a moment on the special version of Bonus Time with Drennan. Coming your way from Firestone Country Club in Akron, the worldwide known country club Firestone, as the Kaulig Company's championship being staged here this weekend with the best seniors in the world. Ken Miles joins us now. He's Vice President and Strategic Partnership, Trustly Incorporated Sales Consulting Teams. This guy has got so many business endeavors and is such a prestigious man in so many different fields. For goodness sakes, new payment systems working with Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, Google, many others. Just an incredible business background and one of the big investors for the Big Play Sports Network. Welcome, my friend.
Bruce, thanks for having me, and my mom's going to love that little bio.
Tell us how you got involved.
Well, so, a friend of mine one day, we're goofing around and talking football, and someone said, you guys ought to put together a video podcast. I didn't really know what it was. One thing led to another. I meet Dave McAllister, and I see what they were doing, and I know he was talking to you earlier. And we put it on the air, and it became a hit. One thing led to another. I said, Dave, you're onto something special. I want to be a part of it, and here we are.
Oh, my goodness. And it's growing so fast.
Yeah, it really is, Bruce. But it really is a tribute to the team behind the scenes. These guys are technical geniuses. You've seen them even putting together a remote like this is not easy. And then on top of that, we get legendary guys like Bruce Drennan and some of the others on the network. And it's been a great ride. And And I think the future looks great.
And I was just going to say, we're still in our infancy here,
Still in our infancy.
A lot of big plans in store for us in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, the whole idea behind Big Play is certainly we want to be entertaining first and foremost, but we want to do things a little different, give the fans a look at some of the behind the scenes that maybe they haven't seen before. And, again, it's a blend of the new and the vintage, if you will. Guys like
I'm
me.
the vintage. Yeah, that's what he's being polite when he says that. Say, the other part of your background that I find absolutely fascinating is that Ken is a owner of racehorses, and he races them. And boy, does he race them. Seize the Gray, the winner of this year's Preakness, is owned by Ken Miles. Unbelievable.
Well, I want to say we have a lot of partners in the horse, too, so it's not a one and done with my wife. But, yeah, thanks. It was an incredible ride.
Literally.
Literally. And, if I may, just a quick how we got into it. A friend of mine named Michael Behrens started this company called My Racehorse. And the idea behind My Racehorse was buy a thoroughbred racehorse, treat it like it was an asset like you would a stock, register it with the Securities and Exchange Commission, and then sell micro shares to the public where you could literally buy for a nominal fee, maybe $100, let's say, a share of a horse, get a certificate. You're literally listed in the equine database as an owner. And because it's a Securities and Exchange governed asset, when the horse wins money, you get to share in the dividend. But it's not about that. It's about giving people a chance to see the other side of this incredible sport. My wife and I did it, and we fell in love with it. One thing led to another. I became a significant investor in that company, and then my wife and I started buying our own horses and have done some things that led to Seize the Gray.
They truly are athletes, these racehorses, aren't they?
Oh, Bruce, it's I get chills talking about it because they really, really are. And talk about personality. When my wife and I will marry, we'll go to a race, let's say Seize the Gray, even for the Preakness. We're there 2 days early. You go back in the stall and you see what the day in the life of a thoroughbred racehorse is. It's like a world-class athlete. They're on a schedule. They eat right. They get warmed up. They train. They're taped. They work out. They come back. They shower. They eat. They train. And treated like kings. And it's so much fun on those off days. And then in the case of Seize the Gray or any of our other horses, you get to spend time with them, and they're very playful and jovial, and you really bond with them. But on race day, they know it's time to go. And the vibe is so different. There's no goofing around. There's no going and trying to touch them, and they know.
How important is the jockey?
Jockey is incredibly important. In fact, in the case of Seize the Gray, Jamie Torres, 25-year-old jockey, started out as 18 in Puerto Rico, decided he wanted to come to the United States and try and make it. He went to legendary trainer D. Wayne Lucas, who has become a friend of mine.
Yes.
And said, let me ride your horses. And Wayne said, I'll start you out in the stalls mucking, young buck, and see how it works. One thing led to another. He was the first kid there, last kid to leave. Rode some practice horses, and he said, I'm going to let you ride Seize the Gray. Did well. And an interesting note, this is a tribute to how D. Wayne thinks. When we won the Pat Day Mile, which was on at Churchill Downs on Kentucky Derby race card day, that got us into the Preakness. Now, the Preakness is one of the legendary races, worldwide races, one of the 3 Triple Crown races. And all the top jockeys and agents in the world called up D. Wayne and said, I'm sure now you want one of us to ride your horse. He goes, I'm sticking with the guy that brought me here, Jamie Torres.
Wow.
And Jamie Torres ran him to the victory and changed Jamie's life. But D. Wayne said, I'm sticking with that kid.
Oh, what a story that is.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And your horse did very well in the Belmont, too. It fell shy, but it was right there, right?
Yeah, so, interesting story there. We went to the Preakness. And
the Belmont was at Saratoga this year because of construction in New York.
Yeah. So we're at the Preakness, and, look, you're one of the top horses in the country to be in the Preakness, but nobody was really giving us a shot. We win the Preakness, we get to the Belmont. Now we have media all over us. In fact, when the race was actually being held, It was done by Fox Sports, and this time they put my wife Mary and I right next to the Michael Behrens and his wife, the CEO of My Racehorse, and some of our other people behind us. And there was 2 giant cameras on us to videotape us during the race, with the idea if we won, they would replay the reaction.
Yeah.
We've all seen that, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
now we're on the camera, and you're so nervous. I can't tell you how much your heart is beating through your chest. We take off. We get to the lead. We're leading the whole way, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I think we're going to win the Belmont, and I better start putting out a little bit of a show here, being a bit of a ham. And then we kind of went in reverse and didn't finish. And when the race was over, we saw these guys with the giant cameras just hit delete, walk away.
What's it like? I've never been to the Derby. What's that like?
Oh, it's any one of the Triple Crown races is like the Super Bowl of thoroughbred horse racing. It's so exciting, and I guess I could speak from an owner. People want to come up and talk and touch and get your autograph. Look, you walk around with Bruce Drennan, and people want to shake his hand and tell stories and get pictures with him. And just for that tiny bit of a moment, I get a taste of what that's like, because people want to see you and touch. In fact, if you don't mind, quick story: we win the Preakness. And we go to the winner's circle, and now we're scrambling around, and my wife needed to run back to get her purse before we went back to the stall. And so we're going back, and we're behind the scenes, and 3 guys and gals approach us, and they're like, oh my gosh, you just won the Preakness. And I'm sure they remember, because my wife looks beautiful in her hat. Maybe it was because I was wearing she had the big Kentucky Derby hat. I was wearing a Seize the Gray hat.
Right.
And they go, oh, look, it's spectacular. Congratulations. Can we take a picture? Sure. So this one guy hands it to his buddy, Lamar Jackson. Taking a picture of me and my wife
God.
with his buddy.
The quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens, I'll be darned.
Went to Louisville. He's a big horse racing guy.
Yes, now that you mention it, I remember them saying that. Yeah.
So you meet a very interesting crew, and again, just for that minute, I taste a little bit of what that's like, but on race day, there's nothing like it.
D. Wayne Lucas is one of the most successful trainers ever. You of course, employ him. Your ownership employs him. Probably the most renowned is Bob Baffert, and you have a relationship with him.
Yeah, and it's not a deep relationship, but where I got to know Bob is Bob and D. Wayne are very close friends. In fact, before the Preakness, I was sitting with Wayne. In fact, I think we maybe even have a picture of my wife sitting with Wayne and his wife, and we're sitting there talking, and D. Wayne couldn't be nicer. In fact, he whispers to my wife, he goes, I wouldn't be surprised if we win the Preakness tomorrow. I'm not going to go say that publicly, but I think we can. And, of course, we're like, oh my gosh, that's going to be life-changing. So we're sitting there, have this great conversation, and Bob Baffert walks over, and Dean Wayne touches me. He goes, hey, if you don't mind, get out. And so Baffert sits down in the chair. Couldn't be nicer, And because I'm friends with Wayne, Bob's going to give me the courtesy to talk for a little bit. But so I don't want to embellish it and say I'm really good friends with him. But he's a legendary trainer, too.
What is his status now? Are they going to let him back, his horses back in the Derby?
Well, it's a little bit of controversy there. He, as a result of one of his winning horses in the Derby, and I don't know how it happened. There's a lot of stories. I won't get into the particulars. Found out to have a banned substance. And as a result, the Kentucky Commission said you're not coming back to any more Kentucky races. This past year, he was supposed to be eligible to be in it. He had a couple really good 3-year-olds.
Yeah, Muth was one of them, I know.
Muth was one of them. And then at the last minute, they said, no, we're not letting you in. Unfortunately, in the sports of horse racing, there's no national commission. It's governed by the states. So you have states that have different rules. And in fairness to Bob Baffert, what's legal in California, where he's got a lot of horses, might be different in Kentucky, might be different in New York, might be different in Florida. So you have to be very careful. And these horses are moving all around, and there's different people working with the horse on a day-to-day, maybe a different vet. And so in the case that got Bob in trouble, the substance that was found on the horse, I think it was something like you can't have that within the horse's blood 72 hours before the race.
I see.
And they found out that he had it 48 hours before the race,
Right,
something like that.
right. Before I conclude with Ken, Ryan, look up the leaderboard for the Kaulig Company's championship, and before we leave the air, because this is going to be our last segment, what do you got coming up in the future?
Well, so I want to make sure your audience, Bruce, knows that, because we've had such a great...
No, I mean, hold that thought. I mean the horses.
Yeah, so with the horse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with the horse. Because we had such a great response with Seize the Gray, and some of our horses are doing really well, we came up with an idea. How about letting our fans at Big Play be part of it? And so what I did with my partner, Michael Behrens, we bought a horse. We bought a very significant 2-year-old from a very successful sire named Improbable. His bloodline of Improbable goes back to AP&D, who won the Kentucky Derby and was Horse of the Year. And his father was Seattle Slew.
Oh, my.
If you remember.
Oh, vividly.
One of only 17 Triple Crown horse winners. And what we've done is we are now making that horse available for our viewers.
Really?
And you can go and participate if you want. Go to bigplay.com/horse. You'll see the pictures of this beautiful horse. And hit the click button, and you'll see all the details of how you can buy a share. And the SEC won't let me tell you what the price is, but I think if you go and see it, you'll say, wow, this is very reasonable. And you'll get such an incredible behind-the-scenes look. We're going to do a lot of things with Big Play. But My Racehorse, what they do as a company, when anybody buys a microshare, you get a weekly update of your horse, a video and a narrative, in our case with our horse. And by the way, Dean Wayne Lucas is training this guy, our horse. And, we're going to see him progress because he's 2 years old. And
Where do you train him? What state?
So he's training right now in Kentucky. We'll probably move him to Saratoga, but because we're in the big leagues with somebody like Wayne Lucas, his first race will be probably late August, early September, and you never know. Horse racing, anything can happen. But we're very, very confident that with 2-year-olds, because he's 2 years old right now, all you have to do is win 1 or 2 of these initial races, and you get into what are called graded stakes. And why that's so important as a 2-year-old, it only takes doing well in a few graded races to get points to the Derby.
Right.
So a lot of it has to do is where you start, because they're only going to run 4 or 5 times before the Kentucky Derby.
Yes.
So if you got a good horse and get up there right away, now all of a sudden, and I certainly am not promising anything, but my hope is with this guy, we're on that Derby trail. And I'll tell you, there's nothing more incredible than every day looking at what are going on with other horses. And even if you own just one share, and you can say you're in the Kentucky Derby race.
Wow, that is incredible. Give the fans one more time how they can invest.
So go to bigplay.com/horse. I think Ryan's putting it up on the screen. In fact, you'll see pictures of our horse. He's a beautiful animal. Very muscular, by the way. And our guys that buy the horses, they scout these horses. We've had our eye on this guy for well over a year, and that's a whole process in how you even go to the auction and buy these guys. But he has a big, sturdy girth. That's what D. Wayne likes. He's muscular. His dad was big. He's trained to go 2 turns, so he's built for something like the Derby. And so bigplay.com/horse. See all about it. Hit the click button, and it'll take you there, and hopefully you can go for the ride of your life.
There you go. There you go. Don't go anywhere. What do we got on the tournament, Ryan?
Yeah, we're looking at, tied for first, 3 under. Duffy Waldorf, he's 3 under through 8. And Kenny Perry is 3 under through 3. So he's doing really well. Daly is +2 through 8. And 3-way tie for third as well at 2 under.
Any big names in that tie? That 3-way tie that I mentioned?
Defending champion Steve Stricker, he's 2 under.
Okay.
Tim Herron, he's also 2 under.
Okay.
And Canadian Mike Weir, 2 under.
Oh, all right. Mike Weir. I'll be darned. Yeah. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. I got to say to the
Appreciate it.
fans, you come out here, this Kaulig championship is something special.
It really is.
And you come out here and you see players that, these are iconic names. Yeah. But I got to tell you, as I'm sitting here on this set, this guy Bruce Drennan's iconic. How many people are standing out here waving, talking, screaming at Bruce? So happy to have you on the network,
God
Bruce.
bless.
So
I
happy.
really appreciate the opportunity, Ken. Hopefully we can keep it going a while. I'm just trying to get through the 18 holes with you young studs here this afternoon.
It'll be fun.
At Firestone North. But that about wraps it up for our special version of Bonus Time with Drennan here on the Big Play Sports Network. We're going to have much more programming coming your way throughout the weekend, all kinds of programming tomorrow. Somehow we got to give Ryan a break. The guy's going around the clock.
Bruce,
My
yeah,
goodness.
Come on.
Yeah.
You've known me for what now? Almost a year. You know I don't need no damn break.
Well, let me say this: he is working hard, but his protege right next to him over there, Luke, makes it easy because Ryan's sending him, "Hey, give me something to drink, get me some water,
sir.
get me some tacos."
He's an up-and-coming broadcasting star, too. But we also want to thank Matt Kaulig and all of his team for inviting our network to be the media outlet for this tremendous event. And you'll be seeing that interview that I conducted with Matt last night throughout the week here in programming. A reminder that our next version of Bonus Time with Drennan will be next Wednesday in our usual time slot. We will be featuring Mike Yeager, the head golf professional at Columbia Hills. We will preview the British Open, which my man John Daly will be competing in. Hopefully he'll make the cut. He loves playing British Open golf. I'm Bruce Drennan on behalf of Ryan Smith, Ken Miles, and all of us here at the Big Play Sports Network. You have a great day, a great weekend. I'll see you next week. Until then, as always, and most importantly, you remember, I love you, Ohio.